Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening to Tesla stock as it continues rampaging upwards, and I'll give you my thoughts moving into next week and all of that good stuff. So if you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my analysis on Tesla stock, etc., I do share my thoughts on it pretty much daily on my membership section. There's a link to it down below in the description of the video. For just $3 a month, you get access to my thoughts, posts, updates, etc. on Tesla and sometimes other stocks. Just $3 a month every day the market is open as is trading. Or for $5 a month, you get access to all that plus NVIDIA daily updates. But jumping into a Tesla closing day, yet another green day on Tesla stock, up about almost 4.5%, closing just above $436 per share. Obviously, compared to the market, pretty nice outperformance, but the stock is of course absolutely just short squeezing and or really just having an absolutely insane amount of momentum, which obviously at some point will end. I just want to make that very clear. But hey, so far the party is still going and the party is still very much alive. So let's talk about moving forward, right? What do I see moving forward? Now let's just get the most obvious things out of the way, kind of almost like a disclaimer at this point. The daily chart, again, my bands, right? Exceptionally overbought, like this, like to the point where it's actually so overbought that it's once again outside of the bands. Last time it got so overbought that it was outside of the bands, for instance, it's happening these 3 days here, was right over here, and we did get a small little mini correction. Now, whether or not we'll actually get that, we'll dive into a little bit more deeper on the more detailed analysis intraday, like on the 1 hour chart. I'll talk about that soon. But I just want to make it very clear. I just want to get these obvious things out of the way that yes, the stock has bullish momentum. Yes, it is still powerful. Yes, it is still bullish. No, it's not bearish. But with that being said, obviously the bands are extremely overbought, RSI is extremely overbought, and even the BX trender actually started to finally flip red today for the first time since the rally has begun, even all the way back down from about 350. So even the BX trender is now telling us that some warning signs are starting to appear to maybe take a little bit of caution here, right? So again, just want to take these obvious things and kind of get them out of the way, just let you all know that the party's still going, but at some point, the music will stop. So just make sure you have a chair is all I'm trying to say here. Now, let's dive into it a little bit more on the more kind of detailed analysis. Now, first of which, of course, as per usual, bring out the 9 EMA, 9, 10 EMA. Doesn't matter really, all the same thing ultimately. Again, ultimately, as long as this remains, as long as the price remains rather on the daily above this thing, pretty much zero reason to be bearish on Tesla overall, at least as of right now, right? Absolutely zero reason. So far, so good. Let's dive into a little bit more detailed analysis. I want to dive into something a little bit more specific. Now, so far, Tesla has been pretty much stair-stepping its way upwards consistently, right? You can see here, every time, it breaks highs, it comes back down. Breaks highs, comes back down to kind of retest that general area. Goes up higher, comes back and retests it, right? And it's constantly just stair-stepping like this over and over. And I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe starting Monday even, we do this like stair step kind of situation one more time. We come back down 426-ish, give or take, and then potentially still continue going higher. So as long as this pattern remains, and as long as we continue on the 1 hour chart, just consistently making these higher highs, higher lows with no signs of slowing down, I see no reason for Tesla to really stop, right? At the end of the day, you pretty much expect it to continue until proven otherwise. And in this case, it's just continuing to do this, right? For instance, the most recent price action has been, pretty much almost perfect. I don't know why I'm not trading it. I'm actually not even trading this. I should be. I'm not sure why I'm not. I'm too busy focused on NVIDIA, to be completely honest with you. But with that being said, it's performing beautifully. You can see massive breakout to this area back. There was a resistance here. Support. Done. Next. Breakout. All-time highs breakout, came back down, turn all-time highs into support, done. Next, breakout. And it's just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? And now the next area that is going to be major support for it to come back down and hold, if it wants to continue this, higher high, higher low price action, is going to be, like I said, pretty much around that 425 to 430-ish area. So like around 427, we'll just say something around there, right? There's no perfect number. It's not like 26.39. It's just in that range, right? So somewhere around 425 to about 430. As long as that $5-ish point range holds, you just assume that it continues this pattern, right? That it's just been pretty much doing, right? There's no reason to consider anything else until proven otherwise. Now, for instance, this is where we start talking about that until proven otherwise. For instance, if Tesla comes back down, let's say, Monday or whatever, And let's say it breaks down. And let's say it doesn't actually hold this 425-ish range. And let's say it actually comes back down all the way to 415 once again. Okay, it's not the worst thing in the world. I still think 415 will hold that support. And ultimately, in my opinion, as long as it's actually above 415, I think it's actually still looking pretty damn solid, because the market bias will also most likely make its way there. And it should act as a pretty powerful support overall in that vicinity. So that's obviously really, really good news. However, just alone losing this kind of 425-ish range will already be a bit of another red flag for me. But if we lose 415 and we lose that previous all-time highs, that's where I start getting much larger red flags, right? That's where I'm going to really start to question, is the momentum finally fading? At least short term, right? Is the momentum finally fading? Are we finally done, just pretty much only going up and no real actual pullbacks essentially for the most part, right? That's where I really begin questioning that. But again, that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it won't even happen. Who knows? Maybe Tesla will just rocket to $500 from here. Nobody knows for sure. Nobody has any actual idea. We're all just playing with what we can see, right? At the end of the day. So make that very clear. I will be wrong. I could be wrong. Anyone could be wrong. Nobody ultimately knows. So that's probably the main thing I'll be looking at on this kind of more smaller micro time frame, if you will. I mean, 1 hour is not really micro time frame, but definitely shorter time frame, right? Moving forward, really into next week. So let's watch to see how that plays out ultimately, and what that actually means for Tesla. Again, 425-ish has to hold, in my opinion, for true bullish momentum. But even as long as we hold 415-ish, I still think bullish momentum is still very much alive. But if we, let's say, drop from here, for instance, right, that will potentially start risking, it could be potential head and shoulders pattern, which that could be a potential risk, assuming it obviously gets there. I'm not saying it will, just, thinking ahead right now, as, into different possibilities of what can happen. So those are probably the main things I'm eyeballing on Tesla right now, without really, again, overcomplicating it too much. The weekly time frame, of course, very, very bullish, very powerful close. All-time highs, number one, and of course pretty much closing at the highest point on the weekly time frame. I mean, you really can't ask for much more than this. So right now, again, to me, the most important thing is I ideally want to see 425 hold, but I really do want to see previous all-time highs continue to hold, because again, to me, losing that will start showing me a little bit of cracks in this bullish kind of run up that we're getting, which again, I want to make it very clear, at some point it will finish, at some point it will correct, at some point, it will come back down. Obviously, we don't know when and to what levels it'll come back down just yet, because we need to see where it actually, starts really truly showing some weakness. And again, losing 415, in my opinion, is starting to show that kind of weakness. But at some point it will, right? Again, every metric is extremely, extremely overbought. Now, it doesn't mean it has to stop from there. But again, every metric is just ridiculously, ridiculously overbought. It is what it is. So yeah, let's just kind of see how it plays out. I have a sneeze coming up, so I might sneeze here in a couple seconds here. Excuse me. It's kind of chilly here in Canada. Anyway, so that's kind of the main way I'm looking at it. Now, what happens if we do pull back? Let's say we do lose 415, right? Okay, what happens after that, right? Like, where is it going to pull back, right? That's probably the main question people are asking. Well, because, we're continuing to rocket, and in my opinion, if we lose 415, we probably will lose the 1 hour market bias as well, which has been holding us very strongly in this uptrend. I think this correction, unfortunately, I use the word correction loosely here, honestly, but ultimately mini correction, whatever you want to call it. If we lose 415 and the market bias on the 1 hour, I think will be a little bit steeper potentially. And the reason for that is because ultimately what I'd want to see Tesla is, again, this will be really steep. I'm not saying this is for sure going to happen, but you have to understand that whenever something rockets like this, especially Tesla, it more often than not also comes back down, usually just as quickly. So if we start seeing those cracks, if weakness really starts to show, I do want to see Tesla ultimately come back down all the way somewhere down here, right? Somewhere around 370, 360, something like that, where the market bias will catch up. And this can potentially happen, honestly, sometime next week or early the week after, right? That is a possibility, assuming those cracks start to show, of course. And that's kind of what I'll be expecting if those cracks begin to show, to come back down and retest this area as, well, again, support, naturally, right? It used to be resistance. I want to see it as support. We never actually really truly came back to retest this area yet. And that's where the market bias will sit on the daily as well. And that's the area I'll be really, really paying attention to, assuming, of course, we get this, obviously massive, or not massive correction, but the small mini correction, if you will, short term. Now, let's say things really hit the fan. Let's say things just really don't go well. Let's say things just really sell off and it gets really ugly. Like, Again, this is definitely, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but for instance, you can take a look over here, right? When we had this low back over here and we had this high back over here, we had this massive correction. If you take the Fibonacci's, you can see this correction pretty much went right into that green area, almost to perfection. And it had a pretty much like a massive, massive bounce from there. So let's just say we take this low over here, this overall massive swing low. Again, assuming this currently is the massive swing high, that's just, again, demonstrational purposes, let's say 436 is the high. Just, for example, take it from here to here. I mean, you can see, there is a chance, again, this is assuming like, shit really hits the fan and, we get a massive correction or something goes wrong, right? Just something really goes wrong. There is still a chance that this thing comes back down all the way down to the 260s. Now, again, like I said, this is if things really go bad, right? If something really, really just something bad happens or Elon starts selling or something, that's going to be, to me, the ultimate dip buy, right? If at some point ever we somehow see Tesla move all the way back down to 260, if it happens, I'm not saying it will, but if it does happen, that to me will be probably the absolute best sweet spot you can possibly buy Tesla moving forward into, what should be another very powerful leg up. And that's just the way I'll simply look at it, right? Because again, you have to remember, this area was a massive, massive resistance and we never actually came back down to it. And we have a massive fair value gap sitting right over here, also sitting, in the 280s, 270s, 260s, like a huge fair value gap sitting there. So at some point, I actually do think there is a chance that Tesla does come all the way back down to here. I don't know when, and I'm not 100% sure it's going to happen, but this is something that is kind of in the back of my mind all the way down here. So let's see how it plays out, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen again. I know people are going to be very upset about that. I'm just bringing that out as a potential option. And, if things really go bad, if the market corrects or Tesla corrects or something just bad happens to the stock for whatever reason, that would be like the ultimate, like super duper dip buy that, if you get there and if it does get the stock gets there and you are patient enough for that, for instance, blah, 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 that should be like the absolute sweet spot, like that perfect sale on the stock, right? So let's see how that plays out ultimately, right? Let's see how it plays out ultimately. No one knows for sure, but those are, in my opinion, the main things to look for. And honestly, the 1 hour is probably the most important one to look at right now with those kind of stair-stepping, action constantly going higher and higher and higher. In terms of options flow, the options flow, of course, is still overall definitely more bullish than bearish. I think there's absolutely no question about that. The bulls are still dominating the bears. $1 million calls coming in throughout the day, 1.3 million towards the end of the day for next week. So clearly the bulls are not done with the stock just yet. They want more, and they're probably going to get more as long as we hold these two levels, and especially if we hold 425. Absolutely no questions asked. In terms of confirmed options flow, let's take a quick look and see if Tesla's anywhere on the confirmed options flow, essentially the positions that are more or less still open, and it actually is all the way down here at 9 million. So definitely, not as crazy. NVIDIA actually taking the cake here, almost at 60 million, which is nice to see. But Tesla, only at 9 million. So maybe some profit taking happening, who knows for sure. But yeah, ultimately, that's just the way I look at it moving forward for Tesla stock. Really just watch for this continued stair step, right? If we start losing this stair step and we do not continue holding this, and especially if we lose this right here, that's where I start seeing cracks, especially right here. That's where I'm going to start really being like, that's not what I want to see, right? This is really starting to make things less bullish. Let's see though. Let's see. Again, one step at a time. Ultimately though, at the end of the day, as long as the stock is above market bias on the daily, which it is very far from it, though I will admit it's a little too far from it for my liking, it's still bullish. As long as it's above the 9 EMA on the daily, still bullish. And as long as it's stair stepping like this on the 1 hour, still bullish. There's a lot of signs that can potentially still show that it's bullish, but we want to start looking for potential signs that are telling us the opposite thing is also potentially coming to fruition, which is, of course, the bearish side. But again, so far, nothing is showing that whatsoever. There's absolutely no reason to be bearish right now. Anyways, that's all I got for you. Let me know what you think. See you on Monday. Peace.